So, a little update on Project Vega. We're making some progress. We got a lot of clips and connectors hooked up and set up how they should go. Might not look like we're making any progress, but we are. Right now we're waiting on the steering column clip. Basically the new harness comes with all the wires just hanging more so. So we want to get we found a clip. We want to get the exact clip so it's still plug and play. We're trying to keep it all original. We got we got some of the connectors in the back going on, wired up for the tail lights and stuff. We got some of the front headlights all set up. We got these little guys. These are actually really nice. They're found these from a company. They're like ceramic, so those are really nice. We got those going on. So what we actually, speaking to the customer, his long-term goal, or I should say short-term goal, is to get the car running and then sell it to somebody like in his car club so they can enjoy it. So we were talking about the budget, and we don't know right now, with all the wiring going on, we don't know if we're going to do the Holley EFI setup. So we wanted to try to get the car started, see where we're at, see if we could even just get it running. Well, we got power, it cranks over, which is a good thing. We started digging in a little bit deeper now. You know, we mentioned that he has, these are fuel lines. And these are fuel lines just ran all the way from the tank to there. He's still got the mechanical fuel pump down there as well. One of the hoses is just blocked off with a bolt, which is a return line. So as we're trying to diagnose the no-start condition, we dug in a little bit deeper, of course, and we noticed that there was extra lines coming from the tank that normally shouldn't be coming from the tank. So we dropped the tank, and sure enough, he has a whole setup that is pretty much ready for an EFI setup. So if you're not familiar with all that stuff, what I mean by that, he has an electronic fuel pump. Not the old school mechanical fuel pump. Now, if you're not familiar with older cars, when you have a carburetor, you only need about 4 to 6 psi of pressure. That's what a carb works on. Normally, an electronic fuel pump like this is going to push out, well, at the fuel rails, and you're going to need a regulator, about 32 psi of fuel pressure is kind of what the starting point is. Of course, you can go up if you're making more power. So, as we found this out and we were under the car, we got the car jacked up and we're rolling around underneath, we noticed that it has, not only does it have an electronic fuel pump, well, there's no fuel pressure regulator. So who knows what fuel pressure this thing is trying to push out towards the carburetor. And who knows why the other shop put this fuel pump in there and also swapped this fuel tank in there. I mean, the fuel tank's really nice, but this whole fuel tank is set up to run fuel injection. So now, you know, we were talking about the budget possibly, and you know, maybe it's not in his budget to go with the EFI setup to work. But now it just seems for us to fix what we have to fix, the fuel line. So if we go back over here, the fuel lines are going to have to be redone. What they actually used, I mean, I suppose you can use this for fuel lines. This is like normal brake line stuff, but it's bigger. But all the ends underneath the car are just cut, and they're not flared out how they should be, which I'm only assuming that they're not flared out because they didn't have the proper tool, because normally, I'm not saying guys don't use this stuff. We don't use this stuff for fuel lines. But we're going to have to get rid of all this stuff, run new fuel lines, figure out what we want to do with the pump in the tank, figure out if this mechanical fuel pump, what's going on with that. So I'm almost, at this time, with the Holley EFI setup, it's only, I think it's right around $1,000, and it comes with everything we're gonna need. He's also gonna need, I mean, if we stay with the electronic pump, he's gonna need some type of fuel regulator. So, I mean, originally it might not have been in his budget, but now for us to do it right and get this car where it needs to be, I think that's our better option. A lot of head scratching on this one as we dig in more deeper and just try to figure out what was going on, why the other previous shop did what they did, and we're still kind of at a loss on some of this stuff. So that's pretty much where we're at right now. I think ultimately the judgment call and the best thing to do with this setup, seeing what he has already and what needs to be fixed, is just to toss it on an EFI setup. I mean, the other thing too with this carb, you know, who knows if this carb is going to need to be cleaned out, rebuilt, gone through. It's been sitting for a while. I don't rebuild carburetors in this area. It's getting, you know, we're in the Midwest where we have winter. I used to know a couple of carb guys that specialized in it. You know, they moved down to Florida or Cali or warmer weather because, you know, it's a lot of carbureted cars you don't see a lot of carbureted cars driving around in the wintertime anymore over here. You know, usually they're older, classic type cars that are stored in the garage. So, you know, that's just the other thing. We can get everything back to where it is. Then if the carb doesn't want to do what it needs to do, the car's not going to run correctly. This way, if we go with the EFI setup, we know we have full control of it, and it should fire right up, and it should be good. So that's what we got going on. A lot of stuff, a lot of work, a lot of little stuff, a lot of wiring. But as I said, it might not look like we're making progress, but we are. We're going to clean up all the wiring once we know everything is working. The other thing too, trying to find a wiring diagram for this car, you know, not the easiest. So we found a couple old wiring diagrams for GM cars, and we're thinking that GM is probably going to use a lot of the same kind of pinouts, especially for this column. So we're just trying to kind of find the old wiring diagrams we had, verify that they're the same on this car. So that's what we got. We're going to keep making some progress, keep trying to knock this out, try to figure out why a fuel pump, an electronic fuel pump, was put in this car for a carbureted setup. I'm not sure.